Have you ever imagined what life would be like if you were unable to vote? Just think about next month's presidential election. How would you feel about being unable to have a voice in the outcome? Not too long ago, that was the reality for women in this nation. Women were expected to obey the laws they couldn't help create, and they were underrepresented by the local governments. One woman decided to change that for all of us, and that woman's name was Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Elizabeth Cady Stanton played a huge role in the women's rights movement. She was born in 1815, and during that time, women still had very limited rights. During her childhood, she witnessed firsthand how hard life a mother and a wife was by observing her own mother. Her mother had 11 children, only 6 of which survived childhood, and was overburdened in her role in society. After Elizabeth's only brother died in 1826, she became dedicated to filling his role within the family, to which her father said, "I wish you had been born a boy." This insinuation that a woman was less equal than a man made Elizabeth decide she must take action with how society viewed women and their value. She attended one of the only universities that allowed women and focused her study towards women and equality. As she became an adult, her views did not change, and in 1840, Elizabeth married Henry Brewster Stanton, a journalist and anti-slavery orator she met through her involvement in the temperance and abolition movements. The phrase, "promise to obey," was omitted from their wedding vows at Elizabeth's request. She later wrote, "I abstinently refuse to obey one with whom I supposed I was entering an equal relation." After moving several times, her family again settled in Seneca, New York in 1847. She became restless, however, in her role as a housewife and a mother. She began to make connections with like-minded women and men, and by 1848, she held the first women's rights meeting in U.S. history. The meeting was attended by around 300 people, and Elizabeth recited a speech entitled The Declaration of Sentiments, which was formatted after the Declaration of Independence. The speech, which I will recite shortly, was a huge statement for women's rights movement, lighting the torch that allowed more meetings of this fashion to take place all over the country, and in 1850, the first National Women's Rights Convention was held in Massachusetts. Declaration of Sentiments and Resolutions. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, to secure these rights, governments are instituted, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of those who suffer from it to refuse allegiance to it, and to insist upon the institution of a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards from their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of women under this government, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to demand equal station to which they are entitled. Man has endeavored in every way he could to destroy her confidence in her own powers, to lessen her self-respect, and to make her willing to lead a dependent and abject life. Now, in view of this entire disfranchisement of one half of the people of this country, their social and religious degradation, In view of the unjust laws above mentioned, and because women do feel themselves aggrieved, oppressed, and fraudulently deprived of their most sacred rights, we insist that they have immediate admission to all the rights and privileges which belong to them as citizens of the United States.